The air hung heavy and still before the entrance to the labyrinth. Young Ilhu, his hands clenched into fists, could hear the silence whispering. It wasn't a peaceful silence. It hummed with an unseen energy, prickling his skin with goosebumps.
The labyrinth loomed before me, a menacing structure of ancient stone swallowed by the creeping shadows of the forest. Strange sounds drifted from within its depths, a rustle, a low growl, a whisper that seemed to slither into my ear and then vanish. The labyrinth held an ancient magic, a power that felt both alluring and terrifying. I knew that within its twisting corridors lay the answers I sought, but at what cost?
His heart pounded against his ribs, a frantic drumbeat urging him to turn and run. He wasn't the first to face this trial. Generations of his family had walked this path, their stories passed down through hushed whispers and cautionary tales.
I'd grown up on these stories, their chilling details woven into the fabric of my childhood. I knew the risks as well as I knew the lines on my own palm.
He took a shaky breath, the air thick and cold in his lungs. His fingers instinctively reached for the hilt of his sword, the familiar weight of the weapon offering a small comfort.
But could even a god's favor be enough to protect me from the horrors that awaited within?
Vehum. Just the name sent a shiver down Ilhu's spine. The vampire god was a being of immense power and ancient wisdom, feared and revered in equal measure.
I had been chosen as Vehum's champion, tasked with upholding the ancient pact between the god and his people. It was an honor, a duty, a burden that pressed down on me with the weight of 1,000 mountains. I carried the mark of Vehum etched upon my soul, a symbol of my connection to the god, a constant reminder of my purpose.
The pact was ancient, forged in a time before time, when the world was young and the lines between gods and mortals were blurred. It was a pact of blood and sacrifice, of loyalty and obligation.
I closed my eyes, focusing on the connection I shared with Vehum. I could sense the god's presence, a vast and ancient consciousness watching over me, waiting.
Remember, Ilhu, the path you walk is one of both honor and peril. Trust in your strength and in my blessing.
The labyrinth seemed to pulse around him, a living entity fueled by ancient magic and long-forgotten fears. The air grew colder as he approached the entrance, the shadows deepening as if to swallow him whole.
He could hear the whispers more clearly now, hissing and spitting like vipers in the undergrowth. They were trying to break him, he knew.
These whispers, these echoes of fear and doubt, were the labyrinth's first line of defense.
Ilhu drew a deep breath, the air stinging his lungs. He would not give in. He had a duty to fulfill, a promise to keep.
He tightened his grip on his sword, the cold steel grounding him, reminding him of the physical world, of the task at hand. Duty? It was a heavy word laden with responsibility and expectation.
He was the eldest son, the heir apparent, the one destined to face the labyrinth and prove his worth.
He'd trained his entire life for this moment, honing his skills with the sword, mastering the ancient arts of combat and survival.
The labyrinth was more than just a physical test. It was a journey into the depths of one's own soul, a confrontation with the darkest parts of oneself.
Ilhu knew that the true monsters he would face wouldn't be made of flesh and bone, but of fear and doubt. As fear threatened to consume him, a memory flickered in the recesses of Ilhu's mind. He was a child again, listening with wide, awestruck eyes as his grandfather recounted his own experience in the labyrinth.
He remembered his grandfather's words, not of terror or despair, but of grim determination and unwavering courage.
"The labyrinth tests you," his grandfather had said, his voice rough with age but steady with conviction. "It throws your deepest fears at you, hoping to break you."
At the time, Ilhu hadn't fully understood his grandfather's words, but now, standing on the precipice of his own trial, he felt the weight of their meaning settle in his chest.
And in that moment, as he stood before the yawning maw of the labyrinth, a spark of courage ignited within Ilhu's heart. He was ready. He wasn't fearless, not anymore. But he was determined. He would face the labyrinth, not with reckless abandon, but with a newfound clarity and resolve.
He took a deep breath, steeling himself for what lay ahead. He closed his eyes and whispered a silent prayer to Vahum, seeking the god's strength and guidance.
He could feel the god's presence surrounding him, a cold comfort in the face of the unknown. With a final, fortifying breath, Ilhu stepped forward, crossing the threshold into the labyrinth. The air grew instantly colder, the shadows closing in around him like grasping claws.
The whispers started immediately, hissing and whispering, trying to pry their way into his mind. But Ilhu pushed them aside, his gaze fixed on the path ahead.
The labyrinth awaited.